Sportageous. Sport gets smarter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SportsTech cast, where we bring you insights into the sporting world straight from athletes, sports bivs, sports professionals, and more. As you know, we have rebranded, so the video cast and audio cast have now merged together. So you get to hear it or watch it, listen in or view in, however you like, wherever you like. Today, our guest is Harbir Guram, who is the technology practice lead for SportsX Consulting. He has over 15 years of technology experience working for organizations such as the English Football Association, Hawkeye Innovations, and Deloitte. And outside of work, he has two young boys that occupy a lot of his time, and also a passion for playing and watching a number of different sports. Harbir, welcome to the show, mate.
Nice to see you. Thanks for inviting me as well.
Look, it's a pleasure to have you here, mate, and I'm really glad that we're finally making this happen, because we talked about this quite a while ago. So
we did.
So good to finally get into it. And look, first of all, you have all this experience, and you've done work with a range of different sports organizations. So starting off, just very quickly, tell me a little bit about your story and your work within this world of sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. A bit about myself. So I graduated in computer science. I entered that world really when the internet was in a boom period. So everybody was kind of jumping on the bandwagon around the internet, and graduated and then decided I got a job fairly quickly and went into the world of data analytics. This was really when it was in its infancy. So data was really kind of this dark art. People didn't really know a lot about it. They didn't know what you could do with numbers, essentially, and how you could drive kind of performance alongside that. My starting route was very much around kind of marketing, so customer insight, thinking about how you could use that data to try and effectively increase sales and your brand presence. So I did that for about 9 years, and then got to a crossroads really where I wanted to try and push on and think about how I now deliver this strategy. So I was delivering to my colleagues what they should be doing, but now it was about how do I now do that and take that strategy forward. So I had the privilege of working for Deloitte in the UK, which was an unbelievable experience. Again, it kind of brought my knowledge out into the forefront. Some massive transformation projects out in multiple clients across the UK and Europe. Really fast paced, a lot of learning, which is fantastic. And then after kind of my stint there, I got the opportunity to work for the English FA at St George's Park when it had just literally been opened about a year or so, and to effectively grow the technology competency in and around that specific venue. So St George's Park, for those that aren't aware, is where the England national team, the Football Association, English Football Association, their teams all train. So 24 England teams. It's got the FA education element, so aspiring coaches wanting to become managers all in there. And just the venue itself, there's like 12 elite football pitches, state-of-the-art hydrotherapy pools. It's an amazing venue. And alongside that, a 200-bedroom Hilton on site as well. So amazing venue. And a brilliant experience, and that kind of allowed me to take the first step into sport. So I was working with the teams alongside their strategy for what they wanted to do, culminating to the 2018 World Cup. And again, an unbelievable experience, delivered kind of a program of work for the support staff in accordance to that tournament. And then had the opportunity to really think about what I wanted to do next, which was I kind of went down the route of looking at other types of sport. I left sport to one side and decided that I wanted to try and see and absorb a little bit more around what was happening in kind of everyday business. So I spent kind of 12, 16 months on a cybersecurity project, but at the same time wanted to work on sport. I didn't want to leave it completely, so I had the opportunity to work for Hawkeye Innovations, and I continue to do that. So that's basically doing all the setup of goal line technology and VAR, which I know is going to cause some controversy because obviously I know that's that's a hot topic right now. But fantastic company, brilliant to be working alongside of those guys. And then I got the opportunity to go into SportsX. So really met one of the co-founders there, John, and we talked about building the consultancy business and leading the strategy for sports technology. So right now I work with a number of clients across the US, Africa, Middle East, really helping them with a number of different projects, from strategy work to data analytics, to innovation, fan engagement, etc., as well. So really varied career, but I feel like the work in sport is my passion, and that's where I'm really going to be pushing and heading towards.
Yeah, wow. That's so much information just put
a
into
lot,
that. Yeah,
sorry.
no, but look, that is fantastic. And that's exactly why, I did want to sort of chat to you and learn a little bit more, and sort of hopefully the people watching, listening will also enjoy. I'm sure they will appreciate what you will be sharing with us. And, you talked a little bit about data analytics in the beginning and how that's been part and parcel of what you've been doing across a lot of the work that you've done. How does that tie in with some of the work that you're doing at the moment? You talked about the various clients, the varied work that you have across the different areas. Where does that sports analytics piece fit in?
So I think at the minute, just to kind of touch on me, so I realised that when I started to go into analytics, that my kind of brain worked in that way. So I was very logical in how I thought about things, very methodical. So I think because of that, it plays a part in everything that I really do. So anything from kind of writing kind of a pitch to a potential client, there has to be some numbers to tell the story. There has to be something that you can go back with, some facts around what you think about, what you could do, and what value you could add. Likewise, when you're going through a project, when you're actually delivering something to the end client, there has to be a story at the end. And again, the story is usually merited through figures and analytics. That's where you get the credibility. So it plays a part in everything that I do. In terms of specific work, anything from kind of doing data strategies for clients, so thinking about what they should be doing right now with multiple sources coming into the marketplace. There are more and more tools that people are looking at, considering buying. There's kind of what we're doing with social media, with fan engagement, huge kind of tools out there in the sports tech space. But it's about then thinking about how do you actually leverage the data that sits behind that. Where does that all sit, and how can you now tie all of these disparate sources together to be able to start to tell the story? Data really now is a currency in itself. You're making money really through data. But I think for me, one of the key things that I really try and push on my clients is, when I first started in kind of data analytics, there was nowhere near the number of tools there are right now to use. Which has been great, because you don't necessarily need to be a mathematician or a statistician to be able to start to pull out numbers. But I think there has been, because of that, I think sometimes the play is too much on the tool. The play is too much on how something looks, the graphs, the nice pretty graphs, and actually less time is potentially spent on the question. What are you trying to answer? What are you trying to find out? What's the problem you're trying to solve? What's the hypothesis that you have prior to doing that piece of work? What's the vision of the company? What do you want to do? How is this going to impact on all of those things? What data are you bringing to the table? Do you have the data to be able to answer that question? How can it be quantified? All of these kind of questions that really need to be at the start of the journey. And I think sometimes people are just going straight in and going, right, we've got this tool, here's some data, we're going to make something happen, and then this is what we're going to show. And actually, was that really what you wanted to show right at the start? So I'm very keen on people kind of having a vision and thinking about what they want to do. And I was on a webinar yesterday, and there was a real fantastic kind of analogy that was given around kind of cultures and bringing kind of people together and thinking about things in the same way. And the gentleman who was on the call kind of alluded to three kind of points or areas where people can bring data and people together around having one single focus. And that was around kind of having a language, so having the same language between the people that you're talking to. So how you talk to your key stakeholders is really important. You don't need to. You should know that they're not going to be interested in kind of real heavy analytics or statistics. It needs to be tailored in the right way, fostering that culture within the team. So making sure that people understand that this is the way of working, this is what you want to do, this is where you want to go, and then building the system around it all, building the systems around all that. So for me, that's really where how I kind of tie it all the kind of analytics practices together with myself and my clients as well.
Yeah, look, that gives me a very sort of interesting question, because obviously, Harbir, you've been involved within this space in so many different sports and different areas. Maybe this is a very basic question, but I think, there's a lot of value in it, in that when a sport does data right, or a particular organization within sport, it does data right, is there a distinct sort of, I guess, how would I say this? Is there a distinct separation between the ones who are doing it right and the ones who are not, and how that's impacting whatever they are sort of focusing on for the future? So let's say if we're talking about fan engagement, if they're doing data right in that space, is it very easy to tell that the work that's coming out of that, you can actually say, yes, these guys know what they're doing? And what is the key difference, which you've sort of touched on a little bit?
I think you can find that out very quickly when you start to ask the right types of questions, and it's whether they're able to answer those questions. So, for instance, if you're able to tell a story through your data, so if you're able to ask certain questions around what can you show me what happens when, how do you forecast your sales over the next 12 months? What are you planning to do with your customer profile? What does Generation Z look like for you? Where do you see the future of your sport, and how does data supplement that? All of, very, very kind of high level questions, but if they are able to give you succinct answers around that and have validity around how the data can help them answer that, then they've kind of joined up the dots a little bit. Then you can think, actually, they know a little bit how this could work. If they're not really able to answer some of those questions, then you dive a little bit deeper and you start to understand, okay, maybe they're not able to answer this because they don't have this particular piece of information, or that particular piece of information as well. And I guess that for me, the other kind of key point to kind of raise as well is that sometimes you can be immersed with too much information. So, I think sometimes people have the notion that they haven't got enough, but I think very, very quickly we're getting to a point where we're almost being bombarded with so much. And then it's about actually understanding what is the key pieces of data that you really want to focus your attention on. It's back to the question. What are the questions that you're trying to answer? Don't try and cloud with other things. Focus on what you're actually trying to do, and then try and think about the data that supplements that. So for me, it's all about the kind of those areas that hopefully allow them to kind of push forward.
Yeah, and obviously you work in that space. So my next question then is, when we look at SportsTech, which has seen this huge boom in recent years, it's become a common word. People understand what it is. It's still very, very broad and encompasses a whole range of different things. But from your perspective, and obviously through the work that you have done, what are some of the key, I guess, sports technologies to look out for, in your opinion, that organizations, federations, sports clubs, and even all the way down to the level of the individual athlete who is looking to improve their performance by using a technology, all of that comes under sports tech. What are, in your opinion, some of the sports technologies to sort of look out for and keep an eye for, in your opinion, in this rather broader language, such as fan engagement and so on?
Yeah, so I think for me, I kind of differentiate kind of front end and back end, or front office and back office.
Yeah.
So for me, if we take back office first, a lot of sports and society in general has really suffered from the pandemic that we're obviously all going through right now. And as a consequence, there's been, particularly in the UK, for a lot of national governing bodies, a huge reliance on the government to support them through this crisis. Now, I think for me, when we step out of this, and there will be a point where the government does actually step away, because they'll have to, how do these businesses then become back to being kind of self-sustainable? And I think technology has a real role to play there. I think there are, particularly in kind of the fan engagement space, I kind of group a lot of these things called in a term called self-funding technology. Yeah. So when you actually have pieces of technology that will actually generate revenue for you. So I think there's a lot of things in the fan engagement space in particular that people need to look and explore and be willing to take, I say a risk, it's not really a risk, it's actually take a plunge really, because there's probably with self-funding technology, there's probably very minimal amounts you have to outlay, because essentially what the providers will usually do is give you some revenue in turn for actually generating this through. But I think there's a lot of stuff to be done in that space. I think esports is a huge area for me. I think the Generation Z sports fan right now, as we're seeing, is a lot more, is looking at other kind of ways of digesting sport, making it more palatable. So it's about kind of shorter clips. It's looking at very digestible chunks. People now may not want to sit through a 90-minute football soccer game. They want to just see the highlights or the goals, and that's it. Yeah. So how do they now make this more appealing to them? And it's utilizing things like esports as a mechanism to potentially do that. To eventually tap into that audience and bring them on that journey as well. From the front side, I think kind of AI machine learning is a huge topic. I did a report very recently with somebody around all of this, and I think there's a huge drive from kind of the performance perspective, particularly sports science, around taking all of this information and very quickly taking out any kind of bias, thinking out anything around human computational effort. It's all machine learning that's actually doing that, pumping out the figures. And then there is the human element of actually trying to understand that and think about what you do with that information once you've got it. But I see that as a huge area going forward, particularly where you've got certain sports and certain disciplines where you have an abundance of data. So for an example, Formula One. Yeah. The amount of diagnostics on a car are huge. Yeah. If you can use machine learning in some way to try and give you further insight that you won't be able to number crunch physically as a human being, then I think you're in a really good situation there. And then I guess kind of data analysis I touched on before. I think there's so much data out there. It's about trying to clear that to one side and really focus on what's really going to be useful going forward. I did a piece last week on my kind of weekly LinkedIn articles around crypto and fan tokens that are all kind of kicking off now as well. So I see that as a huge thing as well that's going to be happening around people looking at new technology and how they monetize sport. And then, to be perfectly honest with you, I think there's always going to be a play for traditional technology. So looking at things like your CRM system, your generic data warehouse, your ERP systems, your EPOS systems, how they integrate, how they leverage data that they currently have with all this new information that's coming in. So I think there's an abundance of different things. And to be honest with you, I'm really excited. I've seen so much happen in just the last 12 months that I think I can only see there being more and more sophisticated technology applications out there for people to use. I think the key question is, back to the client, is what are they and how are they going to really make an impact? And that's what we try to do, and that's what I try to help my clients with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for everyone watching and listening, be sure to, get in touch with Harbir on LinkedIn if you think there's something that you can chat to him about. And even if not, be sure to just get in touch and connect with him so you can read his weekly pieces. They in themselves will give you a lot of value. We will share wherever you're watching or listening the link to his LinkedIn profile will be there in the description or the caption, so be sure to check it out. Look, absolutely, Harbir. I think, I'm really, really interested in the NFT side of things and how having a share of a club, can really, really make things interesting. And the blockchain side of the world and crypto. I mean, there is, big people talking about crypto now. And I think very recently, someone's even made NFTs for squash. So it's happening everywhere. And if it's happening at that level, there's certainly, they've already got AC Milan tokens and Juventus tokens that are out there. And I believe there's an exchange now for sports tokens solely. So that exists as well. So definitely, I think the potential is endless. I did want to sort of shift trajectory here, though, and talk to you about something a little bit different, which we have spoken about in the past, and I think that we're both fairly passionate about this space. When we talk of sports tech, and it's still relatively young or small as a field, and it's growing rapidly for sure. But when it comes particularly to sort of diversity and inclusion, from my understanding, there's still a long way to go. What have you observed, obviously having been in such a diverse space within this world? And do you think that is the case? And if why not?
Yeah, so I think you're right. I've been really, really lucky that I've worked with so many different types of people. I can give the example at Deloitte. When I was working on projects with them, on global projects, you would have literally people from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, all culminating and working on one specific project together. I think there is work. I think at ground level, to be fair, I think there is a lot of people that are very diverse. But I do still question at senior levels if that's kind of resonating and that those people are actually getting in. I'm still an idealist. I still want to believe that the best people get the jobs, regardless of their creed, their colour. I'd like to think that was still happening. And I do believe that, for me, it's about understanding people's beliefs that are really important. I think that's the key part of it, the education side. So if I talk about myself, so I'm of Sikh origin. My closest friends when I grew up, they were all white. I've known them since I was 11 years old. They understand my religion. They understand my faith. They've grown up alongside me, so they understand all of that. They text me when it's Diwali. They text me when it's Vaisakhi. They know the protocols of entering a temple, a gurdwara. They've immersed themselves in my culture because they're my friends. They've even visited India, where where our family home is as well. So I think education is key to all of this, and it's not about kind of ramming it down people's throats. This is what you need to do. It's all about us all having a part to play. And being proud of kind of who you are, and opening the door and showing people that. And naturally they'll have questions, but that's no different to anybody else who's going to do the same thing, and they'll answer those questions. And I think if you have that level of kind of dialogue and like I mentioned, education, then I think barriers are broken very, very quickly. And now, I'm just one of the gang, really. So there was no difference for me in that regard with the people that I immersed myself with. So that's my kind of take on it right now, I suppose.
Sure. No, absolutely. And dialogue, I completely agree, is without a doubt key in every situation. And look, Harbir, I feel like we can keep on chatting about a lot of things, and off screen, I'm pretty certain I will like to pick your brains on a lot of further questions and that sort of thing. But just before we conclude, I did want to ask, what's sort of next in your journey in the sports tech world? What have you got coming up? Is there anything that you're working on that you want to share? really over to you.
Well, I suppose for me right now, the future, I genuinely don't know. I didn't expect to be where I was right now, maybe 2-3 years ago. I've had some unbelievable experiences, and I continue to have those. I think my focus right now is obviously building I'm working on behalf of my clients and building the technology practices for SportsX. Where that takes me, I genuinely don't know, but I love working with great people. I love working in sport. It's my passion. And then, if you're kind of working in your space when it's your passion, it's not really work. And that's the way that I see it. I would quite happy to just kind of continue working in the space. And I guess I don't really know. I guess the future is kind of open, and I treat it in that way as well. Something might pop up in the next 6 to 12 months, and who knows? So I'm treating it as it comes.
Fantastic. Well, look, I wish you all the best, and obviously we're gonna keep in touch and see how things go. But thank you so much for coming on to the Sportageous cast. It was a pleasure, as always, to talk to you, and to once again to everyone watching or listening, be sure to get in touch with Harbir on LinkedIn. We have shared his social media accounts below, so do check him out. And as you know, the Sportageous cast is available on YouTube to watch, and then you can listen to it on all your favorite platforms from Apple, Google, and everything else where you can possibly listen to a podcast. So thank you once again, Harbir. It's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Thanks, Ishan.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.